Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called Loot and Shoot. Loot and Shoot is a 2 to 4 player rubber band game that is based on shooting goblins in a castle-like area, in which you're going to be trying to set up as many goblins as you can, collect as much loot as you can, and also avoid your enemies from shooting your goblins down. As you go throughout the game, you'll be placing units down, moving them around, collecting loot, using their abilities to mess over your opponents, and stopping your opponents from getting loot. And you're going to be doing that by loading up your rubber band gun with bullets. And depending on bullets in the game, you're going to start with a couple, but you're also going to get more. And they're a commodity because throughout the game you'll be using them, and at the very end of the game you're going to have a shootout. Kind of like the Wild West style games where you're shooting the bullets at the different characters and whatnot, and you have to all do it really, really fast. And then it ends, and you see how many points you have. And the game's very simple when it comes down to it. You're going to be trying to collect as many points as you can, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner of Loot and Shoot. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here we go, Loot and Shoot. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get the board itself, which has its own unique areas on the board. You got the middle area, as well as you got inner, outside area, and then the furthest outside area, coming with 4 different pieces that you're going to be using to set up the board. In the Kickstarter exclusive, I think there's additional different pieces as well, and they provide little areas which you can shoot through, as you can see. You're not going to be able to shoot above, but you have to shoot through these little areas here to hit the units. Speaking of units, over here every single player will be getting 6 different units, all along with their unique style as far as how big they are, as well as their own unique abilities, and all of them have different abilities that are going to be included with a die. Every player is going to get a character board here, and there's 4 different colors along with 4 different colored dice you'll be using to roll dice for the specific abilities of the characters. Over here you've got a bunch of treasure cards which you'll be picking up throughout the game. Some of them are going to be basic cards that are going to be worth 1 point. Others are going to be action cards that you'll be able to use to affect your opponents in some way, and others are going to actually be booby-trapped, and these booby traps look like this. And they have the little explosion symbol, and you could actually lose your treasure by not being able to obtain certain booby-trapped treasures, so you have to be careful when you're rolling dice. And also, you're going to be getting rubber band guns. This gun here, as you can see, is a very nicely made rubber band gun in which you'll be able to shoot at least 3, even maybe 4 to 5 bullets in a single shooting session. All of this will be included for the game Loot and Shoot, which you'll be using to defeat your opponents in this crazy goblin shooter style game. So to begin the game for Loot and Shoot, you set up the number of players, and then they each get to go on one side of the board, the north, south, east, and west side, and you're always going to be positioning players, either if it's 2 players, 1 in north, 1 in south, and if it is 3 players, there's going to be a specific like triangle type thing I think they're going to set up. Otherwise, you just set them on one side, and then all 4, each and every single side of the board is going to be set up. You can even use a lazy Susan if you'd like, if you only have a certain amount of space in the game. You're going to be getting 3 shots, and you can load the rubber band gun up just like this. Remember to load the gun from back to front. So there's all these different little spaces here. You want to start from the back here and load it all the way up to the front here, and always make sure to put them on top of this little mechanism here, otherwise it's going to get the gun stuck. And during the shootout, if you mess up on your shots, they still count, so it's very important to make sure you load this thing correctly. After you play around with it a bit, practice before you start playing the game. You're going to get the idea of how to play the game. It's going to be very simple. Then for shooting, it's fairly simple. You're going to aim. Make sure you wear protective eye gear as well. Don't do what I'm doing with no eye gear. It's very important, especially if you're playing with young kids, because the rubber bands can shoot you and it can hurt very badly. In some cases, it might even shoot your eye. Think of this just like you would airsoft or anything else. Shoot them. Pretty simple to shoot like that. Accuracy works very well. And then you're going to set the game up. You're going to get your character board along with 6 different standing characters. You're also going to then be able to place 2 characters on the board. Now, you're not going to use their abilities or anything. You just set them anywhere you want. You can put them in the middle, the inside middle, or the outside of the board, and you're going to be placing them based on the plate where you're facing. And obviously, the closer to the middle you place them, the more loot you're likely to get, provided your goblin is still standing up at the end of all the other players' turns on your turn. After everybody's put down 2 of their goblins, you can select whichever ones you'd like, but however, the recommended setup is for the biggest goblin as well as the smallest goblin to set these guys up to begin with, because they're going to be likeliest to not be hit, or at least to come back standing once again. You're going to then begin the game, and the actions are fairly simple. You're going to choose a goblin that you have remaining on the field, and you're going to pick it up, and then based on where it's standing, you're going to draw treasure cards. After that, you take 2 actions. One can be a simple gaining a bullet, where you're going to take a rubber band and put it in your pocket, or in the gun to prepare for your next shot, or you can heal a goblin, which is allowing you to basically resurrect one that has been fallen over in your lair, so it is able to be placed down again at the end of the turn. And finally, you can use a goblin ability. Goblin abilities are based on dice, so one goblin might say roll a 5 or higher, and then collect a loot card from the top of the deck and put it into your inventory. That is basically where you're going to be scoring points. After you've done your 2 different actions in any order that you'd like, you're going to then place 1 to 2 goblins in the lootin' and shootin' fields and activate their abilities. Whenever you place a goblin after the beginning of the game, you can then activate their abilities, triggering them to either draw loot, move other opponents different areas, and all sorts of different cool things. And finally, you get to shoot 1 bullet. There's 4 rounds of the game, and then there's the final shootout, which I'll talk about in a second. Let me show you a quick setup as well as how terrible I am at shooting in this game. All right, so everybody has got their goblins, and these are the goblins you're going to be starting with, and they all do unique different things. This guy's going to be likely to stand up. This guy hurts other goblins that are around him. This one over here lets you gain an extra bullet and take a shot at somebody. This one you get to search the deck of the top 3 cards of the deck, pick one, put it into your pool of cards, and put the other 2 on top of the deck. This guy here, you're able to steal a piece of loot. And finally, this guy right here lets you move any other goblin a space. Moving a space is pretty simple. If you have him here and you want to use his ability and you successfully roll the die you need to roll, you can select any other goblin that is next to him or in the same spot and move him to an adjacent location. If he is somewhere on the line here, he's able to use either spots. So if there's one here and then there's one here, he can choose to move either this guy or this guy in any different space. Obviously here I have opened the board so you can actually see all the different spaces on the board, but normally the game is going to have this thing blocking right like that. The middle of the board is where you're going to be pulling goblins from, hopefully, because it is the best location to do so. However, it's likely that they're also going to get knocked down. On your turn, you're simply going to pick up a goblin anywhere on the board. So if I'll go ahead and just show you the different goblins and different areas they can go so you can see. And if it's the green player's turn first, he can pick up a goblin like this guy here, and then he's going to be able to draw 2 treasures and put them into his pile, provided there's no booby traps, because booby traps can affect whether or not you're going to get the treasure. This area over here, if he had this guy over here instead, he would actually have he would actually choose 1. Pull just 1 treasure out of the pool. And finally, if his guy was right here, he would have his opponent draw 2, choose 1, and give him that 1. The other one would get discarded, so it wouldn't be used. So obviously this is the best area on the board to get treasure from, but it's also super easy to be hit. Now, so we've gone ahead and have a couple goblins on the field just so you guys get a good idea of how the game works. You're going to pick up the goblin and gain any treasure that the goblin would loot. You're going to then take 2 actions of any goblins you have on the field. So if you had a couple of these goblins here, let's say he had him over here, he could choose these 2 goblins to do actions. Well, this one right here, this is the little scooting guy. He needs to roll a 4+. He did. And he's able to move any goblin that is in the area into an adjacent location, even if that's outside the board, making it easier for them to get hit, right? This guy over here is the extra shooting guy. He will actually let you have the ability to gain an extra rubber band and instantly go ahead and shoot, provided you're able to roll a 4+. Let's see if we can do that. Nope, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But those would be my 2 actions. Otherwise, to heal a goblin. So if your goblins have been shot, they would be removed and they'd be placed on your board face down like this. To heal it, it would simply go like this up on your board, and then at the end, you'll be able to place this on the field again. So that would be another action you could do. And finally, using gaining a shot, which is simply taking a shot from the pool and putting in your pocket or on the gun for later use. Then after that's done, you're going to place 2 goblins on the field. So if I had to remove this guy, I could then simply choose 2 goblins to be put back onto the field in any location that I so deem that I want to do. After I've placed my goblins, I can activate their abilities once again, see what cool things can happen with them, and finally I get to shoot. I'm going to have to take this gun here, and when I shoot, I have to make sure that I'm not shooting above the area. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back in really quick here. This is obviously a very used prototype, so just be aware of that. But then I have to shoot. I have to shoot either between here or here or here. I just can't shoot above here. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to shoot the bullets up here. You have to actually try and shoot through the tracks, and there's a certain amount of space you have to arrange. Now you can decide that for yourself. We usually do about 4 feet or so from the board here. After you shoot, yeah. Then if some goblin gets knocked down, you're also going to gain a treasure when you knock any goblin over, even if it's the same, even if it's your goblin, right? And this guy here is special. He has the ability to, whenever he gets knocked over, this big guy right here, he actually can likely come back up. You have to roll 3. If you got a 3+, he come back up. Otherwise, he's going to go away. So this guy here, this Bruton guy, is very powerful. 66% chance of coming back up. But yeah, after that happens, everybody's going to do that over and over again for 4 turns, and finally the shootout will begin. So after 4 rounds of play have occurred, and everybody's gotten their 4 rounds, as well as done all of their actions, then you're going to have a final round, which is called the shootout. And the shootout's pretty cool. You're going to take the gun, as well as all the bullets you have remaining, and all of the characters on the board that are still left alive, and then you're going to set up a little firing squad area. You're going to put up all the units that are still alive, including your own units, just like this, as you can see, and then you're going to try and shoot them and knock them over. You obviously do not want to shoot your own guys, because you're going to lose points that way, but the objective of this aspect of the game is to have the most remaining characters on the board left, and you get 5 points for that, and you're going to get 2 points for every character you still have remaining up on the board. So right now, I have 2 of each of these guys right here. So if all of them get knocked down, there's only 1 guy left, he's going to get 5 points for having the most, as well as 2 additional points for being the only goblin left up. Then everybody's going to do a quick draw action, like in the old Wild West. We have the guns facing down like this, and they're going to point it up and shoot. So it'll be like a 1, 2, 3, draw, and then you're going to shoot. And whoever has the remaining goblins left over is going to score points. And obviously there's going to be aspects of if a tie occurs, because there's never going to be a tie in this game, there are certain different aspects that will happen as well. But nevertheless, after that is over, whoever has the most points in the game, loot and shoot, is the winner. Okay, so let's go over a couple caveats as well as some of the cards in the game and how ties work. Now the first thing, since we just left off with ties, is whenever there's a tie, meaning 2 remaining goblins over at the sheet off, you're going to then do a single shot duel with that person. You get an extra bullet, you both get to shoot, and it'll keep going on like that until somebody has become the winner. Let's go and take a look at the goblin board here. This is the goblin board you're going to be getting. This is obviously a prototype. All of it is, so to take that with a grain of salt as well. As to what it's going to be like in the final product, it's probably going to be a lot better. The order of play, right, and tells you all the different actions and aspects of the game, as well as the 6 different goblins you'll be getting. Looting is immune to booby traps, and on a 5 or higher he gets to loot. Shooting, he gets to gain a shot on a 4+ and shoot. Scootin' can move to any other goblin on his space, 1 other space away. Boomin' will wound an enemy in its location on a 5-up. Transmutin' on a 5-up, he'll be able to look at the top 3, choose 1, put his hand, put the other 2 back on top in any order. And Bruton, whenever he gets knocked down, he rolls a 3+, he's able to stand right back up. If the roll fails, you return it to your lair, and he's still standing up, so you don't have to worry about healing him ever. He's very, very strong. And that is the aspect of all the different characters in the game. You also have cards in the game, and there's going to be a plethora of different numbers, 1 through 4. Usually the 4s are going to be booby-trapped, and you'll need to roll a 5+ in order to keep booby-trapped treasure. If you ever draw 2 cards and one's booby-trapped, and you do not get the booby-trapped treasure because you don't roll it, you lose both treasures, so be aware of that. You got cards like Stabby Stab Stab, which says play when you place your goblin next to a foe. Roll 2 dice, and for each 4-up, wound another goblin that you touch. You've got Guns Blazin'. Play on yourself when shooting or gun fighting. Play during a shoot phase or gun phase. You have ammo refilled to 3, but must shoot all of it. Pretty sweet. Shooty shoot shoot. Take a gun from another player and gain a shot. You may shoot with both guns and then return the gun. That's pretty sweet. Spin their eyes. Place on a foe when they're shooting. Your foe must close their eyes and shoot and count to 3 before shooting. Wow, that's nasty. Loot their stuff. Playing on yourself when grabbing loot, roll 2 dice. On a 4-up, you may grab a random loot from another player's lair instead from the board. And whenever you roll 2 dice, you need to get at least one of them has to be 4 or higher, or 3 or higher, whatever the card calls for. You is in your cups. Play on a foe when they're shooting. Your foe must spin around 4 times before they are able to shoot. And there's a plethora of other cards. You're doing a bunch of weird things in the game that will stop your opponent, or making them do a bunch of weird things that will stop them from being able to shoot your guys. And that's important because you want to keep your characters alive, especially because when they're going to shoot you, they're going to gain treasure, and you want to be aware of that. But those are 3 important aspects of the game. But for the most part, I think I covered it all. All right, let's get into the review. So for the most part, Loot and Shoot is basically a party game. It's a game that involves using these guns, and that's kind of the main aspect of the game, is shooting these guns with the rubber bands. Depending on the rubber band, they can be really painful if you get hit, or not so bad, depending. So if you do feel the guns are got too much power, you can go with a lighter rubber band. I personally like high powered, but always remember to wear safety gear. It's very important, because that's I wouldn't say a negative aspect, but it's important to realize, because whenever you're playing with anything that can hurt somebody else, You want to be very careful, especially with your kids. However, this is a great family game. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those games you want to take out when you don't want a lot of thinking. There's not a lot of deep strategy in this game. That being said, though, there is strategy. You do want to specifically have your goblins in certain areas. How you place them makes a big difference, as well as what characters you place on the board first, second, and even third, right? You get 4 rounds, and you have to pay aspect to who's ahead and who's not. And it does have some randomness when it comes to rolling these dice for the goblin actions, as well as what goblins you're pulling treasure from, but you never feel like you're losing the game at any point. You always feel like you have a chance of coming back, because that shootout at the end can give you a bunch of points, which is really nice, especially for a party game. The concept is great. All the artwork is really cool. If you liked the loot and recruit style artwork, it's come back with another flair of goblin shooting and all that kind of stuff. It's cool. I like it. The stands work really well. This is a full prototype copy, but it feels like a fully fleshed out game. It's just been played hundreds and hundreds of times. That's why it looks a little worn. The board's really cool, and the way you set it up is very, very simple. In fact, when I first got it, I was like, oh, how am I going to set this up? But yeah, it just uses little standy things, and you just stick it right on in the board from the top down. And all the different, the artwork and all that, it works. It all functions like a cartoony style shooting game. Reminds me kind of like Yosemite Sam and all that stuff from the Looney Tunes, is how you're shooting and all the antics you get up around. People jumping up and down, that kind of stuff. If you don't like games that are going to make you do a little bit of that kind of zany things, you're probably not going to like this game. But really, why would you be watching anyway? This is a zany party game in all reality. The gun itself is really high quality, and it has a good amount of accuracy. Probably shoots about 6 to 7 feet away, and after that it starts losing its ability, but that depends on the rubber bands you use. The cards all work pretty well, and so depending on whether or not you like how the game makes you do certain things or gain certain abilities from opponents and mess with them in certain ways, you're going to like this game. It's very enjoyable. However, the strategy, right, it's just kind of shooting rubber bands and having a good time. And I think that most people will get on board with it. If you're a big, deep, strategical thinker and you like games that are more like dungeon crawling and that kind of thing, it's not going to be your cup of tea. However, if you like family-friendly games that involve a little bit of play, a lot of little funny antics that are going to occur, being able to roll dice to try and get those weird goblin abilities. Oh no, you've moved my goblin to the front and now he's going to take damage. He's the only goblin I have left and I can't score. Because if you have no goblins on the field, you can't score loot. And loot is so important, but so silly and pointless all at the same time. It just works really well. And I had a good time playing this. We play this over and over again. And the funny thing is, even if you're not interested in doing all the gameplay and stuff like that, just setting up the board and shooting the goblins, just having a good time. It reminds me of the game Brinkin, which I reviewed a while ago. It's a game that we just pull out on the occasion, just start messing around, throwing the cards out. This works like that the same way. Just setting these guys up around the room and just shooting them and having a fun time. The game works though. It flows pretty well. It makes sense. It's very simplistic though, and I think you're going to know if you're going to be interested in getting this game or not. For me personally, it's a great thumbs up. I really enjoyed the game, and it's something I'm definitely going to be picking up and playing, especially when I got a less super hardcore board gamer group around. Even my grandfather jumped in and started shooting some of the guns and had a good time. So there you go, Loot and Shoot by BioGenius Games. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you like this video and like to see more, go and check the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. It all does help. As well as checking out Loot and Shoot. It's currently on Kickstarter, and you can go ahead and back it if you want in the description below. If you like those kind of fun, shooty, gimmicky games, it works really well and is enjoyable, and I'll be playing it for many moons to come. Alright guys, that's all I got for you this time. You can go and check out our friends, family, everythingboardgames.com, and the Giveaway Geek, as well as my personal close friend, Ferdinand, the cardboard stacker, does great tutorials, and checking out our website, unfilteredgamer.com, tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. Alright guys, that's all I got for you this time, and as always, I look forward to seeing you next time.
You must shoot while hopping on one foot.
Am I ready? Oh! That's difficult.
Alright, in 5, 4, 3, Callie, what color are you?
She's right.
Ready?
2, 1, go! I'm done!
No, I didn't get any.
I got more.
Reload.
That's it.
Reload.